Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Hangoutlander. This is our Outlander Stars Hangout, where we discuss all of the episodes and what they meant to us and what they didn't mean to us. And we're all that's normal. We're here to be your sounding board for this episode 303, season 3, episode 3. What is it called? All Debts Paid. And that's what we're talking about tonight. So if you're joining us live and you're on Twitter, use the hashtag Hangoutlander in all of your tweets so we can see it. Maybe we'll give away something cool. I'm Beth, by the way. I'm not drinking because I have a headache. And I just wanted to let you guys know that we'll give away something at the end of the episode. If you're seeing us on YouTube and you're trying to use like the Q&A there, we're not using that. So don't do that. Like, just go to Twitter, say Hangoutlander if you want to talk to us live, and we will comment back and forth with you there. Everybody else on the panel, say hello, introduce yourself so that we can, if you're listening to the podcast, we can hear who is who. Say hi, Becca.
Yeah.
Started.
Hi, I'm eating popcorn. My name is Becca. I'm knee deep into popcorn right now. I am one of the owners of That's Normal, and I'm here to apologize that we do not actually have any of our podcasts for this season so far up. They should be coming very soon. We're going to drop 3 at once. It's going to be magical. So if you listen to us via podcast, big apologies for that. But I'm drinking some wine. This is my 3rd glass of the night, so it's one of those kind of nights. Next, Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen, also sometimes known as Dougal's Beard. I'm not smart enough to figure out how to get the blue banner at the bottom of my my screen, so
It's in the Hangout toolbox. It's the green one on the left. But go ahead.
It's flashing. It's like alive, but then another box pops up, and we'll, I guess, have
Just don't worry about it.
It's
later. Fine. It's fine.
It is fine. Hi, everyone. I have thoughts about this episode.
We all do. Say hi, Heidi.
Hey guys, I'm Heidi. I'm a contributor here at That's Normal. I usually write about The Bachelor, which isn't as awful as you all think when you hear that. No, yes, it is. It's just that awful. I am drinking, what am I drinking? I am drinking a Bullet Rye bourbon, and it's delicious.
Yeah. Say hi, Amy.
Hey, I'm Amy. Heidi is gorgeous. I just have to say that. Like, Jesus Christ, she's gorgeous. Looking at her. I have been drinking a lot tonight. I have had a cocktail, a white wine, and then followed by scotch. And now I'm having some beer. And I've also been crying because of a bad breakup, and I'm half drunk. So this should be fun because I have thoughtful men.
We will report back from Amy's hangover tomorrow.
I know people. I know people.
Just watch out, Rhode Island. Just watch it. All right. So we are a group of women who are talking about a show that is about a woman, and we have thoughts about how that woman was treated and treated other people in this episode. But first, let's talk about Jamie. Jamie is in Ardmere prison in this episode, and it's kind of one that I was looking forward to, actually, because when I think about Voyager, I do think about the prison a little bit more than I do some of the other scenarios that happened to Jamie. And I was sad that it didn't last as long as I wanted it to, but it was a little bit more bleak as well. What was your just impression of Jamie's storyline prison-wise in this episode, and how it was translated from book to screen?
I'll start.
Go ahead, Amy.
So I think that in terms of storytelling, it was the best part of the episode in terms of showing us the desperation that Jamie had and the prisoners had. It was very, very effective. And part of that is kudos to Sam Heughan's acting, because I thought he did amazing. And so considering like the small amount of time that they had, like half of one episode to show you how terrible Jamie's life was, considering what was in the books, what they kept and what they removed, i.e. the flogging of Jamie. I was fine to not have that again, but I just felt his desperation, and I feel like all of that was perfectly conveyed in his uttering of Claire's name, like for the first time, probably in a long time. You just felt his pain and agony. And I just thought it was the most effective part of the episode were the Ardsmuir prison parts.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that Sam did a really good job. This is one of the best things I think we've seen him do. I'm sure we're going to get into the relationship with Lord John, because that's something that I think we're going to see hopefully more, because I think all of us here liked him, unless Karen has a different opinion. Did you like him? Okay.
No, I loved him because
Really?
I'm not a fan of the book character, but I thought that David Barry just did a fantastic job.
Yeah, there were some really great moments that we saw. Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of those things where you don't really think about it afterwards. Like, I didn't walk away saying like Sam Heughan killed it in that episode, but like sometimes you walk away thinking like that was awkward or like that didn't work, and there definitely wasn't any of that, and it just like worked really well. And I think that's like a really good testament to like a good story. I was really entrenched in this storyline.
Mm-hmm. So first thing, Sam looked crazy hot on this episode.
Also that.
Yeah, crazy hot. But I have a question about, I really liked what Amy said about the saying Claire's name for the first time. I thought that scene was played perfectly. But I had a question about whenever he saw, he was talking to Murtaugh about the milk thistle and how it would make him feel better, and that he learned that trick from a lass he knew. The way he said it was like Murtaugh didn't know who he was talking about. And I was like, they went on a whole jaunt where they did song and dance and talent show for like all of whatever that was, season 1. And so like she knows who he is. Anyway, that drove me crazy.
That
They
scene
were
was
like
dumb.
besties.
All the scenes with him were dumb.
Yeah.
It was dumb because, yes, obviously Murtaugh knows who Claire is. And I mean, even the guy 2 episodes ago who was dying with him in the cottage was like, where's Claire? Where's your wife? You know, and so it was dumb for that to be something that he refused to say. But I think they were trying to highlight like how much he's not trying to think about her, how much he's not trying to put her in that place. And then when he had the friendship with Lord John, that was when he was, or maybe when he finally decides to let her go or that she's not coming back, he can say her name again. I'm not sure. I just think that they're trying to highlight the difference.
After he went to the island and failed to find her, correct? Right.
Correct. I also thought though that the saying his name with Lord John was kind of like a chess. They were playing chess in that scene. So it was kind of a chess move where it was like, oh, remember my wife? You've actually met her before. And so it's kind of game play, if that makes sense. I thought that was kind of a clever thing that the writers did with this episode.
Yeah, I thought that I thought that going back and forth between like figuring out who Lord John was, I was not as like in that narrative moment. Like I wasn't as prepared, I guess, for them to have this back and forth between that episode. I feel like they were trying to tell the viewers who they were, because John and Jamie both know that they, you know what I mean? Like there could have been a moment where Jamie's like, do you know that I know who you are? Without it being this flashback thing that I felt really kind of took me out of the scene. And so I was really more interested in what they were doing.
I forget from the books, and I sort of maybe missed it last night or when I watched it. He knew all along.
Who, John?
Jamie knew all along?
No.
I think both of them knew all along. I think the problem is that trying to translate that from book to screen and ensuring that your TV viewer knows who it is, because your book viewer knows who it is because you've been dealing with it for hundreds of pages. And reading the comments on my recap this week, a lot of people were saying, oh, my husband or whoever watched with me had no idea really who Lord John Grey was. So they kind of needed that. Yeah. But again, that feels like, okay, I get they needed that, but that's not necessarily like effective for television viewing.
Right.
It was kind of, if your story is convoluted, how do you figure that out for TV? And they didn't necessarily do that in the most articulate way.
Yeah, especially because it's so much later. And even when like Lord Melton saves him, it seems like it was better. Like that was a better choice than this one was. And I don't know if it was just the flashback or what, but something about how they made that reveal happen, even during the chess game, it took me out of it a little bit. I wasn't even interested at that point. I guess it is because I knew what what was being revealed, but
because of the actual flashback scenes.
How long has it been since season 2 and season 3?
Season 1 and season 2.
Or season 2, but no, season 2 didn't it happen in season 2?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In season 3.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we haven't heard that story. And that storyline was so quick in the show too, right? Like,
yeah,
it was such a little moment. But I mean, we can get back to that, but I just want to make sure we don't miss this because there was a good tweet. Oh God, a girl that has no name, Luna Tuna on 15 said, that bugged me too. I don't know what she's commenting in reference to, but she said, I didn't even realize that was Murtaugh for the longest time, like till they said his name. And obviously I knew that Murtaugh was back because that had been spoiled for me, but I didn't realize, I don't think I forgot when he was back or I forgot. And so I didn't realize either and then I was like, oh, that's Murtaugh.
Oh, but that was a pretty dramatic reveal with the camera movement. I mean, it was meant to be a huge reveal. So, I mean,
but Murtaugh was such a big character that if he had died, we would have known that he was dead on Culloden, or however you pronounce it. I mean, so even if I hadn't been spoiled, I think I would have expected to see him at either his death or his survival at some point.
Yeah,
because
and I think that they could have also revealed Murtaugh like when Jamie sees him for the first time in the prison, which would have been really emotional.
Yes, agreed.
It would have been cool, but you're also seeing they're dropping you into the Ardmore prison storyline and that setting when Lord John gets there, not when Jamie gets there. And so I think they made the right choice. The problem that I have with the reveal of Murtaugh is what Amy talked about in her recap. You can't see anything. The reason you don't know it's Murtaugh is his beard is different, like he's all gray. He doesn't look the same.
Bigger. Yeah.
And you can't see what's going on. The whole show is so dark. We're not watching it in a movie theater. We all have ambient lighting. Like it's impossible to see. So you can't tell it's Murtaugh because you can't fucking see anything.
Right. I think that like I just missed the reveal because I don't know when the actual reveal was because I didn't realize it was him. And then I was like, well, that's Murtaugh. I'm like, was I supposed to know that was Murtaugh? Do we know it's Murtaugh? Like I was very confused. And that is a good point. Have we discussed that before? This is a dark show. I have to turn all the lights off in the room and I still can't see anything.
I know.
That is not new to Outlander. I mean, as much as I like to nitpick this show, that is not a new phenomenon.
Really? Okay.
No,
that's just
agreed.
these days. Are we getting old?
Castle Rock was dark. Yeah, I agree with Amy. But I mean, they tried to have the reveal. The camera was on Sam's face. He had come back from seeing Lord John for the first time, and the camera is talking to him, and then it kind of pans around the corner to see who he's talking to, and it's Murtaugh. I mean,
I think they want you to know his voice.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that he'd said anything. I think Jamie was just talking to him. I'll have to watch this episode for the 18th time now to pick out that 45-second interlude.
Right. Yeah.
And this is an episode with no sex, so that's asking a lot. But yeah,
not even the iron sex. Like I kind of expected. Like, do you remember the scene in Voyager? Okay, well, it's the masturbation when you can hear the chains.
Yeah.
I kind of expected to see that, and we did not see that this episode.
I would have rather had old Scottish men jerking it in the prison than talking about rats being
right.
For sure.
Yeah, there were.
Okay.
I don't know if it's
who's tweeting hashtag old men jerking it in prison. Who's on that?
It's like how our brains work when we're reading those stories. But when I think about the prison scenes,
that's what you think of.
That is one of the images that comes to my mind. And I would have really appreciated the good balance between Claire week in bed with Frank to this week Jamie trying to like covertly deal with his chains, especially because in the show Jamie's the only one in chains, and I don't think that was the case in the book. And so it would have been obvious that it was Jamie jerking it, and that would have been even better.
It's a sin. He's a devout Catholic. It's a sin.
If you can ask another Murtaugh question, though, Murtaugh has to be pretty old now, right? So is he really going to survive in the colonies after all of this? I mean, he wanted Jamie's mom, and they didn't live that long back then.
Yeah, he's probably pushing
dead
50.
already.
50 or 60.
He's
I
the
would
new
think.
Duncan. They're not going to bring on a Duncan. He's the new Duncan.
Yeah, he's the new Duncan for sure. Or at the very least, going to fulfill that void.
Yeah, he's for sure going to make it to the
Because when I
colony.
read the books, like to me, they were interchangeable. To be honest.
Yes. Yeah, they fulfill the same role in the books. I mean, Duncan is Myrta. He's just the American Myrta.
That's they're alter egos of each other. Duncan has never killed anything or anyone in his life. He's the most gentle kind. He was a fisherman. He wasn't a dirt carrying Klansman who was like something out of a Gene Wilder movie. They are complete opposites. They're like a yin and yang. Maybe they fill the same purpose, but I mean, Duncan is gentle, and Myrta is not. Myrta's a cold-blooded killer.
So do you think that they'll
He doesn't have an arm.
He doesn't. So
do you think that they'll have both
doesn't have
characters?
an arm. No arm. No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think I'll also be watching at that point, but that's a different.
Because you love Duncan so much, and you're going to be like revolting.
No, I don't. I love Duncan LaCroix. I think he's marvelous. I thought he was great. But we've talked about this before. I think that bringing that character back is a mistake. There's a loss in Jamie that can never be fulfilled. And it's not just about being apart from Claire and his child. Was his godfather. It was the last link to his family. And that desperation is now a missing element from his character because he has survived in prison, not just with his kinsman, but it was his purpose, taking care of him. And that's a material change in kind of Jamie's outlook. And sorry, I have a problem with it.
Well, they've made a lot of material changes and things. I mean, I remember the very first episode of season 1 where they had Frank going down on Claire. We were like, no, that is not,
that's a
you can't do that.
Right.
It's a huge
No,
material
do that
change.
more.
Huge
That was
story point.
great.
You're
Do
right.
that more. I loved that.
It was a huge change from the books and changed part of the reason that
Agreed.
that her and Jamie's relationship was so different from hers and Frank's. It takes Frank from being a selfish, ungiving lover, which is what that Claire experienced because he was her only lover, to recognizing the difference that happens when she fell in love with Jamie and how different it was. And then that isn't the case anymore. So all of a sudden it's like an equal choice between Frank and Jamie. They changed something that they thought was simple and made a material change about the characters.
And that material change is going to come back in our conversation. I think we're probably going to end up having for the rest of this thing.
But now that Beth mentions it,
exactly. We're going to talk about Frank.
Totally changed. Like, always keep the guy who eats you out. Like, Jesus Christ.
Life advice from Amy.
There's a huge difference when they make changes like that. They see it as, I had this ridiculously long conversation with Chris Parnell about this particular change, right? And he was like, no, it shows that Claire, we wanted her to be sexually like strong, and we wanted her to have like a lot of agency. We really wanted to show that she was this woman who knew what she wanted and she was going to go after it. And so we had her put his head there. And I was like, but you don't understand the characters then. You don't understand what the difference between Claire and Jamie is, if that's what you think needs to show that Claire is like sexually strong.
Beth, we need to do a revisionist history with Malcolm Gladwell on the changes that they made in the first couple of episodes of the season that will impact the rest of this series.
I'd listen to it.
Boom. I think we're doing it right now.
Yeah, I think he'd be into that. Yeah, he's gonna really be.
We do revisionist history in every Hangoutlander.
We do.
Every Hangoutlander, we talk about some change that they made and the reason it sucks, which is usually not the reason that people think it sucks. It's usually something very different. So I kind of agree with you, Karen, about Myrta, but I still feel like bringing in another character that's somebody he's never talked about before, and having him be in the colonies later on in season 4 and all of that kind of stuff is just a convoluted way of basically having a very similar type of character later on. I don't know.
No.
So why do you think they kept him?
Don't say the fans. Don't say.
Well, I don't think it's because of the fans. I think it's just I think it streamlines that particular
Yes.
story. I think that when he get to the colonies, finding Myrta will be an interesting thing that they do, and then having him there fulfilling the role that Duncan Ennis fulfilled will be easier for viewers to just follow that thread than it would be if he wasn't there.
Yes, because we like Duncan because he was this great, wholesome guy with his missing leg and his impotence, but also because he was loyal to Jamie. So why go through the whole idea of creating a brand new character when you can just have
Right.
Myrta?
And I don't think it is the fans, as in like the fans had this like this thing to like keep him around. But I do think that he's likable, and it's worked. If he wasn't a really likable character, they may not have made that decision, and they may never have the Duncan character. They don't need
Well,
him.
he's not a likable character if you're going to be true to the story.
Shut up, Karen.
Get off! We don't want both readers. He is on the show.
I'd love to
He
hear
is.
what Myrta in the books.
I did, but for not
did
the
too.
reasons you're supposed to like him. He's not a lovable character.
He's a grumpy asshole, and that's why
Exactly, and that's why I loved him, because he's a grumpy asshole. But he's not a sit in the cave and give Claire a big hug kind of character. He's like, I'm going to go out and freaking put a dirk in someone's kidney, and if I don't have that, I'm going to do it with a spoon, right? I mean,
that's what makes him likable.
well, for you right now, yes, because you have a list of people that
Who
you
will
would probably
fucking
like.
murder somebody for me? No.
I will.
No, but
be
Karen-
your Myrta. I will be your Myrta, Amy.
Thank you, Karen. Kiss me.
But Karen, you said earlier that Lord John Grey wasn't you didn't like him in the books. He's my favorite character out of the books from here on out. Oh.
Wait, going back to Myrta real quick, because Diana Anderson, Lady Anderson, 1975, not spelled that way, said she assumed that she did say Diana. Diana, that's her name.
Yeah.
God, I'm drunk. Thought it was Diane Gabaldon. Diana gave her blessing to the Myrta change. That's what she's saying. Now, I don't know that they're going to Diana and asking for her blessing at this point for that sort of thing. I mean, again, it depends on how much control she has. They may tell her about it, but I'm not sure. I'm going to guess that was a decision made, knowing what they want to do in season 4.
Yeah, it's not for me. It's not a change that makes it. It's neither here nor there to me. If they had kept Rupert and Angus around and had them in the prison, I wouldn't care. It's not a big deal. I'm really more concerned with some of the other changes in this episode. But let's talk about Lord John really quickly before we get into Claire and Frank, because I was so thankful that David Barry just was good. To be honest, I was just like, well, praise the Lord.
Yeah.
He's a good actor, and it was great. And I felt for him, and he made me weep a little bit. And I just was very pleasantly surprised with his performance and very happy with it, and all around.
He offered like a perfect mix of innocence without being predatory, but also trying to do his job. So he never ever felt threatening in the way that Blackjack Randall felt. So I felt such empathy for him. And I just felt for him. And that when the whole scene with Jamie, it just had such resonance with me. And it was like they were just two wounded people needing somebody, and neither one could fulfill it for the other person. And it was perfect. I loved it.
Yeah, and I felt like they really made their relationship, their friendship, that bond. Like after Jamie comes back from the island and he comes up behind him and he's like, you can just kill me. I think that you immediately saw how they recognized like a resonant honor amongst the two of them that they would have gotten a glimpse of the first time they met, but really wouldn't have registered because they were on opposite sides of this battle. And Jamie would have looked at him as like a kind of a dumb kid who just kind of was doing this thing. And he definitely would have looked at Jamie in a dishonorable light at that particular point in time. And then all of a sudden Jamie gives him this glimpse into who he really is. And that resonance of like duty bound honor between the two of them, it just seals the deal with their friendship. And I think that they really sold that. And I was, a lot of times this show doesn't sell some of the more subtle aspects of what's going on. And so the fact that they were able to show me that John and Jamie were able to become friends in that moment, like they were brothers in that moment and were able to like form a bond, was really surprising. And I think due to Sam and David, and I was really happy for it because that's something that I felt like could have been really camp and really silly if you didn't understand why John and Jamie were close all of a sudden.
Yep.
So I thought another scene that really sealed that was whenever Sam was tasting the wine sauce, and he knew the French name for the wine, and Lord John Grey was like, you sure that was the name of the wine? And it kind of showed that in a different life they would have been on a level playing field as far as class and honor and position. I thought that was really well done on that scene. But I have a question. At the end, whenever Lord John Grey was dropping him off in the drop-off line at preschool, dropping off Sam or Jamie at Hellwater, is that how it happened? I'm sorry, I don't want to do the in-book thing. Is that how it happened? Like, did he just drop him off, or like walk in and turn in your resume to the, HR manager? I mean, or how did he expect that to work out? That was strange to me.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
Okay, tell us. Well,
Okay.
actually.
Actually, in the book, Lord John is longtime family friends with the Lord of Hellwater and has made this arrangement. There was never any, that I recall, any discussion about he hates Highlanders and he was anti the Rising. I mean, I'm sure he was, but it was very, very much prearranged, and he did that so he could protect him, which was alluded to in their conversation on the road, where I actually think that Dave Barry was best in that scene after he got off the horse than he was in any previous part of the episode. He really showed his stuff there and his mettle that he could go one-on-one with Jamie, right? He was like, I'm a dude, just like you're a dude. I am clearing my name, so screw you, right? But in the book, it was completely prearranged, and there are repercussions to all of that later in follow-on books with that family. With whom
Repercussions because Lord John arranged it?
Well, because Jamie was there. Okay, so remember Jamie does things later that I'm sure we'll have 5 Hangoutlanders about while he's in Hellwater.
We're going to have a lot of them.
Yeah, we will.
I was just curious because it makes it look in the episode like he's supposed to walk down to this.
It did. I was like, wait.
Regency era mansion.
Get a job.
With his rags for shoes, like covered in filth, and just be like, I'm here, guys. Like, don't you want to hire me? And it was ridiculous.
How he showed up in the book. I mean, he was still like in prison garb basically when he showed up, but it had all been prearranged by Lord John.
It didn't look prearranged in the show. It could have been the way that it ended, but it didn't look prearranged.
Didn't Lord John say it was the best I could arrange?
Maybe.
It was the best I could do? I think he did say that.
But I think he should have taken him down to the house then.
Maybe he does at the start of the next episode.
He doesn't.
Oh.
That's a problem. These bitches have
watched
it already.
There's been some interesting story editing, although as story editing goes, this entire season has been about 8 billion times better than the last season, so I can't really complain for a few misses.
If you're watching and you're not also like looking at the hashtag Hangoutlander on Twitter, there's all the other conversations happening there that are funny, and I can't even keep up, and I can't keep interrupting us here to talk about them, so I'm going to do it when it's really important. But I just want to throw this out there because Chuchelo, Anna says, they're talking about people who liked Ellen. We're not even going to get into that. But Anna says, good point. I wonder if they'll do away with Jocasta all together. Now, this is like deep book shit. The Frenchman's Gold storyline was done. And I responded and said, yeah, I don't think we're going to discuss that. Like, we're not going to discuss this, right? Like, that was dumb. We don't care. Let's move on.
Who, Jocasta?
The Gold storyline.
Oh.
Like, I realized
until book 4.
It's important. That's why like they're talking about it now,
yeah.
But like it's super boring now, right?
Yeah, super
boring. And it looks ridiculous for Jamie to come out of the island with this perfectly cut sapphire that he shows Lord John. Like, put that shit in your butt and keep it for later.
Well, it wouldn't be safe there, Beth.
Oh.
Lord John was not going in.
He wanted to.
Well, anywho, I thought that that's one of those things that they're going to have to show again when the gold issue comes up, and it's going to be like, oh, yeah. But they could have shown Jamie, like, swimming out to the island and looking for the gold and finding the box and all that.
Well, they clearly they
okay, but wait,
because it was in the promo of him like stumbling around. He's soaking wet, and in the promo for the season, you see him yelling, "Claire!"
But it wasn't in this episode.
No, it wasn't.
So it's either going to be a flashback or it was so fucking boring they cut it.
He doesn't really look like how he looks. I guess, yeah, my thought was that was him having swum to the island and is looking around and he's calling for Claire. That's the only thing that could be, unless it's like a dream sequence. And yeah, they didn't show it. And I really think that they probably just cut it for time and left us with this stupid sapphire scene. Or even the long, like, thing, him trying to get the information from the dying guy. Who cares?
Are you really saying that? Because I've only seen these 3. You've seen the next 3. Is that really, there's no more after that having to do with the gold?
No spoilers.
I mean,
well, in the books,
no
it comes up much later. I haven't seen them. So why don't you, I haven't seen the next 3 episodes.
Me either.
The gold thing is important down the road through many of the books.
Important down the road is so you can get Ian out there so you can then go him in the tropics, right?
Well, as show spoilers go, that scene that they've been showing in the previews a lot, that Claire scene, that's not in any of these episodes.
What? That's rude. Rude.
Sorry for the spoiler, guys, but it's not.
Okay, here's the problem. We've been talking for almost 35 minutes, and we haven't even talked about the bulk of what we want to discuss in this episode yet.
Well, let's go.
Can we move on? Anything else we need to say about Sam's wonderful job? How do we like this Barry guy? Barry, whatever the fuck his name is. I don't even think he's on Twitter.
He's not.
Well, then he doesn't exist.
Yeah, we're calling him Barry.
He's not real. He's fake.
First name.
David. Name's David.
Yeah, I know. That's what. Yeah, we cannot call him that. Yeah, let's move. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it.
Let's talk about it because the Frank and Claire shit was hitting the fan in this episode.
Yep.
Who's afraid of Virginia Woolf?
I'm gonna give us some parameters because there's a couple of factions. There's people who think that Frank came out on top and looked like a victim in this one. There's people who think that Frank was a total cad and an asshole. I think he was a little bit of both in this one. People who are super mad at Claire and think she's being ridiculous. People think that Claire's just out of character and this isn't the Claire that we see in the books and therefore they're mad at the writers. And I think that we need to make a distinction between do we think that if we think Claire's in the wrong, I actually kind of don't. But if we do think that Claire's in the wrong, is that a writer decision or is it something that would have happened if Book Claire would have done as well? And was she equally culpable in this whole clusterfuck of a marriage? So who wants to go first?
Okay.
Go Amy.
I am not mad at anybody. I'm not mad at Frank. I'm not mad at Claire. I feel like they both agreed to this stupid, fucked up relationship and they both have to own it. However, I don't think that in the characterization that we have of Claire in the show, that she would have ever accepted this kind of relationship. And I say this, and I'm sure that many of the book readers and the TV show viewers are people who've been in bad relationships before. There's only so much that you can take before you blow. And I just don't believe that it would have just been this kind of relationship until somebody said bullshit. And I don't believe that Claire would have just accepted, I'm not going to get a divorce from you because I won't win conversation from Frank, because Claire's a fighter and she would have found someone who helped her fight against whatever Frank was saying. I'm not going to win. And I just don't, it's not believable to me. And I feel like it's more plot driven. It's not, I'm incredulous about the whole relationship.
I agree with that 100%. I do not believe that the arrangement that they came to, it's not something that is even hinted at being the reality in the books. In the books, they have a marriage. It may not have been a good marriage, but they were sexually active and they were together and they fought and had seasons of disparate feelings and things like that, like throughout the but it wasn't a arranged open marriage where she went off and never had sex again and never was intimate and they didn't really love each other and they just co-parented free. Yeah, number one, Claire wouldn't have lived like that. But two, that's miserable. Why are you even sharing bedrooms at this point if you're not? It's completely miserable. There's no way that it doesn't even honor what Jamie asked her to do, which is to like go have a life, like make a life for our daughter. And he doesn't even honor that aspect of what's going on. And so I just don't believe that that arrangement is something that was necessary to show their estrangement or to show Frank being a cad. It gives him an out that they made this arrangement instead of it being something that he did because he's a jackass. And I think that it just made it where they could have this big blow up, this big scene, these two big scenes in this episode, and they're completely unrealistic and not necessary.
Preach.
Yeah, I did a little reading today. There's someone in the fandom who's been around for a long time named Karen Henry, and she has a website called Outlandish Observations.
What's up, Karen Henry?
What up, yo?
I think she watches.
Karen Henry, shout out.
Shout out. Our first one. I think she watches all of them, all of these. She's DMing us right now. Anyway, she responded. I guess Diana spoke out about this today. I don't really follow what Diana says. Diana, not Diane Gabaldon. And she has never come out and said whether or not Frank has cheated on Claire. That's what she said in this thing, right? It's always people have their opinions. She's still not confirming. She said she thought that what they did in the show was interesting and it worked, and it's not what happened. She's saying this is not what happened. She's not saying. I don't think she's saying Frank didn't cheat on Claire. I think she's saying this is not what I wrote.
Yeah, well, that's obvious.
So yeah. So
I don't need Diana to tell me that.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. So cancel your post, Karen Henry.
That's good.
Okay, so I can say I'm one of those people who watched the episode the first time and said Claire was unlikable, and I kind of like clinch when I say that because it goes against all of my feminist, connotations of unlikable when it comes to women. But the reason I say that is because within the context of the arrangement they made, that he makes it very clear they agreed that they would have an open marriage on some level. Within that context, the idea that Claire was so upset, jealous on some level, I understand because they've been married a long time, but the visceral reaction to have she's been in my bed, it's been something like 18 years now, or 19 if you include the pregnancy. Obviously he's been sleeping with someone else if you had an agreement. So I didn't really understand or like her reaction to her visceral anger to that. I didn't think it was true to the arrangement. Now, take the arrangement out of the situation and he was just cheating. Sure, that makes complete sense. Where if she didn't know that was the arrangement, but she agreed to it. So
here's why I think her reaction in the context of the arrangement, which I again think sucks and is stupid, but the reason I think her reaction is believable and understandable and justified is she has two reactions. The first one is to that woman coming to her home. Just because you have an open marriage and an arrangement does not mean you bring your crowded mouth floozy to my front door during my graduation dinner. Yes,
so
way too many teeth.
Hashtag too many teeth.
Yes. Hashtag crowded mouth Sally, and she was too much.
Sandy.
I call all of Frank's women are Sally to me. Allie Sally was the first one that anyway. So I think that she was perfectly justified in being pissed at him that he brought her to their home where Bree could have seen her, where her friends and their neighbors could have seen her. If he wants to screw somebody in his offices at work, or they want to go to hotel rooms, or they want to go to movies and get handies, that's fine. That's their arrangement. Their arrangement is discretion. And he blew that out of the water in a very fantastic way in that particular moment. And she had every right to be pissed. The second reason she was pissed was because he's trying to take her daughter away and being mad at her and saying that she's never been there. That's something that you discuss in the 18 years that you've been co-parenting a person when she's been at medical school or been in residency or whatever. If you had a problem with her not being there, they would have been fighting about that throughout the years. It's not something that he all of a sudden blows up about because Bree's finally graduated from high school and he can take her to England. That is a ridiculous request. It was petty. It was underhanded. It was malicious. And the fact that he was using the fact that Bree is really Jamie's daughter to make Claire feel bad for constantly thinking of Jamie is just unbelievably ridiculous and hard-hearted and mean-spirited. She had every right to be pissed at him in that moment. So I don't find Claire unlikable. I fully understand it. What I find unlikable is the arrangement in the first place, and that's not Claire's fault. That's the fucking writer's fault.
Well, here's another thing that doesn't make sense about the ending part. When he suddenly decides when Brianna's 18 and out of high school that he's going to take her to England because mommy hasn't been there her whole life. Like, you decide that for a 6-year-old.
Right.
Like, how is he going to convince his American daughter to leave, who knows her parents are English, but knows she has no connection? She doesn't know about her dad yet. Like, that just didn't.
Well,
it was the whole thing. That lazy.
How much is dad even there? Like, they want us to believe that this is a feminist show from the female point of view, and you're punishing a woman for going and getting education and following through with the profession that she wants to have.
And is it easy to believe that Frank was there when, like, he couldn't even be around for, like, apparently like this big graduation dinner that was happening with everybody they knew? Like, you're gonna be there. Like, you're gonna tell your mistress for that one night. You cannot.
I think they tried to show that with him.
Obviously been there through his professor hours, his teaching, and his office hours, and then his fucking Sandy hours. So
Heidi, go ahead.
Fucking been there.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I think they tried to show how Frank has been the more involved parent with him cooking dinner and him saying, I'll buy you the car and all of that. But I'm not going to argue. The fact that his mistress or whatever she was showed up at her graduation party was absurd. I mean, if he can't take one night off to celebrate his wife's graduation from medical school, that's completely asinine and ridiculous.
Well, exactly.
I can't agree with that.
Like, you have gone to see The Searchers and you've gone to see Carousel. That's 4+ hours.
But not Brigadoon.
Claire has those movies.
But that was, like, if you look at the time period when you're watching the episode, that was 10 years before the night when he asked for a divorce when he's drunk. So, like, I mean, Claire's been putting up with this for 10 years. I mean,
I can't keep up with all that shit.
Yeah.
Every Frank action in this entire episode is for the sole purpose of hurting Claire.
Yes.
For getting back at her. Watch it all. Listen to everything that he says. Every action, everything that he has done is a buildup. It's subversive anger towards her. It's aggressive anger towards her. I'm going to take the one thing that you love. I am going to hurt you where it counts.
Yep.
He reminds him of you. I am taking her away, even though she's an adult. I don't care what you've accomplished. I don't care who your friends are. Claire is a possession to him. In book Frank was somewhat one-dimensional. He just wasn't explored as much, but he was also a man of his time. That's what makes Jamie so special, is that he was not a man of his time in many ways. Yeah. He saw her as the three-dimensional person that she was. Frank could never do that. And he was terribly hurt that how he saw her wasn't good enough for her. So over the course of the 16, 17 years, he decided, maybe not proactively at first, that he was going to do everything he could to make her regret that. And everything he did in this episode was to hurt her, other than cooking.
You think so?
You think he's saying he's a Randall?
Absolutely.
He's a Randall.
No,
That's
I would love
right.
to hear if there's anybody watching us on Twitter that hasn't read the books. I'd like to hear if you agree with that perspective, because I do think that is with a little bit of book knowledge background, that what Karen's saying there, because I'm not sure that that's what I got. I don't know that isn't what they intended, but I'm not sure that that's what came through. And
so I have a question.
Go ahead, Heidi.
So historically, could men were the only ones who could file a divorce at this point? Yes? Because she kept saying, you should file for divorce. She never said, I will file for divorce.
Massachusetts? I don't know.
Okay. So if, let's assume he was the only one. So if he was the only one who could file for divorce, I guess I just found it really out of character for Claire as a person who's a strong. I mean, she's going to school with men who like viscerally hate her,
But they
and she
liked
can
her at the
handle it.
graduation party.
Yeah, they liked her at the graduation party. That's true. Maybe those however many years they really adjusted. I don't know. I found it out of character for Claire personally to be I don't know, to stay in this marriage.
So I want to read a couple of
Massachusetts, where you can show infidelity. That was a fault divorce. It wasn't an issue of a no fault divorce. It was a fault divorce. If you can show infidelity in probably any state, you could get a divorce.
Yeah.
I want to read some of the comments from Twitter because there's a lot of really great ones, lots of opinions, as you guys can imagine. So these are going to be really random. Ashley Craig said Bree and Frank are supposed to have some sort of close relationship, but this episode did not show that. Jess Phillips, I thought Frank's argument for not divorcing Claire was weird. Andy Singh said the Times review said that they didn't show Claire doctoring, that them not showing Claire doctoring cheapened her calling. She wants us to discuss that. There was something else that we can discuss that in a second. Somebody else agreed. For all Frank was trying to do was hurt Claire as much as he could. That was Jamie's rule. This one was a good one. In Brightest J said, seriously, how dare Frank have Mustang Sally /Sandy/Candy at her grad party? Like, put your dick on ice for an hour. Damn. But that was interesting. I didn't read that in the Times thing. What Andy just said there is that should they have showed her doing more of her? I mean, again, we're talking about
at the end.
They showed 18 years of in one episode, so maybe they filmed it and they just could never show it.
I don't particularly love the timeline of this episode. I think they took their time the first two episodes with Frank and Claire, and it was better. And in this one, they crammed so much into one episode from the moment where you realize they're not really going to love each other, and the end of episode 2 to Frank's death in this one is too much time if they really wanted to explore the dynamics of how Claire was raising Bree and how Frank was raising Bree and what Frank was doing. I think Karen is 100% right in saying that everything that you see Frank do in this episode is to hurt Claire. Every look, every word that he says. Now that's not necessarily that isn't the Frank that you see in the book. The Frank you see in the book is window dressing. The Frank you see in the book is he's a plot device. He's, he's in the background of Claire's mind as her husband for the first book. And then after that, he's just the shelter that she goes back to. He's the log cabin that she has at home. And that's it. He's not anything that you really want to explore when you read the books. And so in this one, to make him somebody that's worth exploring, he became a vindictive asshole. And it doesn't make me dislike Claire. I would have been a lot more pissed if I were Claire and that was my reality. And my reactions to him, forget having fun and asking him to go to the movies. I wouldn't be able to look at him. I was going back over some Tobias clips for a post I'm doing tomorrow, just kind of like favorite scenes from Tobias in the show. And I thought, holy shit, she had so many moments with Blackjack where it's just the two of them. And he is the face of evil. He is doing the most evil shit to her face over and over again, speaking evil at her so many times over and over again. How could she ever look at Frank?
Right.
How could she ever look at him? And the fact that she's even capable of doing that is beyond what I would be able to do if I were her. So I have no problems with Claire in this episode. And people that really think that she's wrong and she should have cut Frank some slack. No, the only problem is the stupid arrangement, and that's not a Claire problem. 100%, that's a writer's room problem. It's a male writer room problem.
That's such an interesting perspective, Beth, because he punched her in the fucking guts.
Yeah.
And knocked her to her feet. And it's the same face, according to the show.
Yeah.
And she's supposed to just go on with this happily ever after life with him.
Yeah.
But I think that might be my problem from the beginning is yes, right. She looks at him and she sees that, but that isn't him, right?
At least in the books, we can imagine that he's the same, but a little bit not quite the same.
Right. Right. And you do. I do, at least.
Yes,
Like,
of
with the
course.
I
same
never thought they
face.
looked that exact. And then, but I mean, think about, like, again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, I think, but I still struggle with it. Like, she left, she went through the stone. She's trying to get back to her husband for how many months, and then she accepts that this is her life. She misses him. He's waiting for her. They're sad. They're grieving for each other. And then she finds this new life and this new love, and I think that's great and wonderful. And it's bigger and better and amazing. And then she goes back, and like, he didn't do anything, right?
Mhm.
Frank didn't do anything. Like, maybe he cheated on her during the war, which is what Karen will say. Maybe he did. Diana doesn't
did.
say whether or not he did. Even if he did, even after that, they still had a good marriage. Maybe he didn't go down on her, but that shit can come. Like,
But he would have still, if he went on down her before, he would have kept going down on her. Come on.
I'm just saying, like, that's where I struggle in the first place. Like, I get that she was totally in love with this other guy and she was ripped away from him, but she went back to this guy that she did love in some way before, and nothing was really wrong. He wasn't like beating her when she got back. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. I get that it's complicated and she looks like him, but also it just feels so like, Claire, it's not him. It's this guy that you did love at one point, and
Yep.
you can't live in the 1700s anymore. So this is your life, and it sucks because this guy was better, but it is not a terrible life. I just struggle with the whole beginning part of it.
Well, especially if
just
she's
Jamie.
supposed to believe. I mean, we're supposed to believe that she thinks Jamie's dead, 200 years dead.
Right.
So for her, so at some point she's going to have to move on, or I guess I'm trying to figure out what you guys think Frank's motivation in it is. I mean, I know that Karen thinks he's vindictive and he's just trying to punish her, but why? Because he's sterile and can't have children, so he wants to have Bree? Is that the only reason he stays in the marriage? Or is it because, I mean, I guess I can't figure out what his motivation is
Well,
to
it was
stay.
later. I mean, he loved
Yeah.
her. I mean, he didn't
Sure.
become vindictive and hurtful until many, many years later. I mean, this is, 18 years after Claire has come back through the stones. And he thought that he was getting the same person back. And she was very, very different. She was gone for 3 years. She was pregnant with somebody else's child. She was in love with someone else. But she'd also become a full and fully realized person in the 3 years that she was gone. She wasn't the person that left to go off to World War II, which was the last time that Frank really had a relationship with her.
Yeah.
Right? The fantasy in the Highlands before she goes through the stones, that's not real life. That was
That's
a
very true.
vacation. So you have to remember they were apart for what, like 7 years? And she's in, like, I think her late teens when they get married. Like, she's like 19 or 20. I mean, for reals. And he's 28 or 29 or something. He's quite a bit older, and he's the dapper officer. And that bullshit scene in the first season where they're at the train station. I don't want my wife going off to war. That, you know what? F you. I'm going off to war. I'm going to go be a nurse. I'm going to fucking go save lives. I'm going to be the person I'm meant to be. And she becomes that person with Jamie. And then she's forced to go back to this person who has not progressed. Yes, he loved her, and they do love each other out of respect and all that stuff. But he seems to be sort of arrested in this pre-World War II vision of Claire and who she was supposed to be for him. And he, of course, grieves that. And she's moved on and had this full, rich, multi-dimensional relationship. I mean, real love, not window dressing, not, as Becca said earlier, a nice, fine life. That's not good enough for her anymore. And so when she comes back to it, she's obviously grieving herself. She has nowhere to go. She's pregnant. She's got a husband. She's got to figure out something. Neither of them got what they bargained for after she came back. But I just find that he never accepted the fact that she had grown and changed and become something far greater than he ever could have imagined. And I think that had she never gone through the stones, she would have left him eventually anyway.
Yeah.
Rant
I agree.
over.
No, I'm fully down with that.
But she didn't leave him. You think that she didn't have Brianna, she would have left him?
I don't know. I mean, the child is obviously the plot device, even in the books, that kept them together, and his honor. And I think that's what I didn't like about TV show Frank. He was not acting honorably. And say what you want about Frank and how one-dimensional he was in the books, he was an honorable guy. I mean, there are things that you find out about him later where you're like, oh, and you did see in the show where he starts to write to the Reverend, and he became less than that. He became a lesser person as the writing went on in this episode. And I think that's why I didn't like him, because it just wasn't true to who he was. He wouldn't have been he was a complete cad. He lacked honor completely, and that's not really who that character is.
Yeah, and I was curious too, like where they thought they were taking that scene where he's writing to the Reverend about Jamie. And even if we never find out what he's doing and why he's trying to figure out about this Scottish Highlander, how does that fit in with what we just saw? Like, how does that fit in at all with this vindictive Frank? And so we, when we find out later things that happen to Frank later on, or things that he was doing as Bree was growing up, if we ever see any of that in the show, how does that fit in with this man who was like, really, really hurting Claire on purpose? It doesn't make any sense. And I think it was done just for the soap opera aspect of this Revolutionary Road Virginia Woolf thing that they really, really wanted to put on screen. And it looks great. And it was this great like blow up moment, but it wasn't, it doesn't necessarily fit in with it, which is why Diana has to come out and say, that's not what happened. Because it doesn't fit in with so much else that goes on in that world and in that we know to be true. So.
But even the lighting, we agree, it was very soap opera. The lighting was soap opera. Her hair was soap opera. Her make, I mean, she was fantastic. But it was all very melodramatic. I mean, that last scene with, I mean, I'm sure we're gonna talk about that, but the last scene with Frank and the single tear and the whole thing was very.
So let's talk about it.
Her running in the scrubs. I've never been so disappointed with a character death. I mean, I said a couple of weeks ago that I really thought that they should have kept Frank alive. If you're going to make a change in the books, make one that has some stakes. And that would have been a really great one to give Bree a reason to not want to go through the stones eventually and see her mother and her real father because she doesn't want to leave Frank. Or, give a reason for the time travel aspect of things to make more sense and to fully be realized in this show because there's somebody in the future that can affect the past or knows about the past. But really, really, really fucking cool. I mean, even if the Reverend was still alive, it'd be cool, right? But anyway, whatever. If they don't want to make a cool change like that, that's fine. But this death was so anticlimactic. It happened purely to give Claire a way out. She doesn't seem like she's at all upset in real life. Like, oh, well, good. The person who was just pissing me off is gone. Cool. Now I don't have to deal with the thing that I was worried about. And there's no, worry about what she's going to tell her daughter. There's no worry about anything. She's just like blithely aware that the man that she spent most of her adult life with is a corpse. And she's like, oh, I did love you. I just yelled at you, but I did love you. And that's it. It is bland and horrible. I hate it.
Think it was that bad? I didn't.
It was bad.
I thought it was very British.
She has to go home, and even if she hated him in that moment, hate is so intertwined with love. You wouldn't have a more emotional response to his death.
No, but the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference, and
that's what I'm saying. So you think she's indifferent to him?
No, I actually disagree with your interpretation of the scene. I thought that she was far more emotive in that scene than she actually kind of was in the book. Well, actually, I just what we lost was the consequences of it, the impact of it, because we can't know yet what that meant for Bree and what that means for her everyday life. I didn't see it as a convenient way to get rid of Frank. I do think they missed a trick on not having their kind of church pew reconciliation scene, which kind of made his death in the book somewhat okay, because you're like, okay, they came to grips with a few things. They got back around to respect, and maybe that's going to be shown in a flashback. You tell me, madam. I've already seen the next 3 episodes, or don't tell me.
Don't tell us.
I think that kind of missed a trick, and there were so many kind of peak anger parts of this episode that kind of release valve in that scene in that book, I think would have been really, really nice.
But Karen,
go ahead.
Karen, you think they came to an "we're not angry" point before the death? Because in my interpretation, they
Not
were
in the show. Not in
Okay,
the show, no.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
absolutely not. And
In
that's
the
what I
show,
say.
they
I think
were
they missed
angry.
that.
Yeah, they did.
They were pissed, and then he's dead.
Yeah, it's
They missed a trick there, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of agreements on Twitter. Someone just said, Alicia Meredith 1 said, "Oh, Frank's dead. Okay, that's what the scene felt like." And Jana Weiner, one of our Weiner, I don't know how to say your last name, Jana, sorry, said she should have been devastated for Bree's sake, at least. Kind of agreeing with what Beth said. And then Bree, I love the music throughout. I love the music though. Oh, at the end. I read that wrong. I'm drunk. Yeah. Okay.
I saw someone compare the music to like a Grey's Anatomy episode, which
felt like it.
It totally was. Like Shonda Rhimes totally choreographed that scene. And even the music. Dun, dun, dun.
I mean, I'm not going to complain that there wasn't any Brie in this episode because
me either. Not having seen the
with this
90-second clip for next episode, I'm not going to complain at all.
We can do with as little Brie as possible, but
have we been clear that we don't like her? Have we been public about that?
We've been public about it, but we could say it again. We think Sophie Skelton is really challenged.
Yeah,
she is
beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful, but not.
She's beautiful, but not good. And so we're really sorry if you're watching or anybody that likes her a lot is watching, but she really ruins every scene she's in, and I feel bad about that. It's why we're so excited when it's like when John Gray's good. We're like, well, hallelujah. We're not going to have to cringe all the way through these scenes. So sorry.
We missed one thing that we've all talked about on Twitter, which was, and Kara French just said it on Twitter, Frank's glasses.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Got a couple of good ones in there. Got a couple of good Warby Parkers, right?
Yes.
Right when you needed them.
They were great.
They were great.
They were great.
And I'm going to miss Tobias. We're all going to miss Tobias.
Yes.
I'm hoping that, maybe Blackjack will come back eventually.
Well, we didn't see him die, so I think we all can guess what that means in Outlander land. It's not canon.
He was dead. We saw him dead.
Oh, did we?
I think I heard him breathing.
Yeah.
Maybe Murdo was giving him mouth to mouth.
Murdo was giving him mouth to mouth.
Truthfully, though, there's nothing left for Blackjack to do. I mean, again, as I was watching through some of these clips of Tobias this week, I was like, holy crap, I forgot that he did that. I mean, did you forget there's a scene where he punches his dead brother's corpse over and over again? I mean, there's nothing left for this man to do. There's nowhere else for them to take his particular brand of like evil unless he becomes like, who's that character from Hannibal that gets half eaten by Hannibal Lecter, and then he's just like a Mason Verger from the Silence of the Lambs.
Right.
Like, unless Blackjack comes back like half deformed and like evil just is corroding his body and he's become like something else, like there's nothing left for that character to do. He's done everything horrible that you can imagine. So
I think Frank will come back in flashbacks though, don't you?
Yeah.
For Brie. Yeah.
If they can afford Tobias.
I think that Blackjack Reynolds should come back as a past lover of Ellen, because apparently that tramp got around the island.
Everyone loves Ellen.
Everyone loved Ellen.
She just spun around like a record, baby.
Ellen,
Everybody.
Ellen liked the D.
Not just the Silkies. She liked them all.
It's ridiculous how much Ellen McKenzie was everybody's spank bank material, apparently.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Anywho.
So we ranted about Frank and Claire. Do we have are we doing a giveaway this week?
Yeah, we're doing a giveaway. We had a lot of freaking people on Twitter. How am I going to pick? I think I actually had an idea, but my computer's dying. Let's see. There's some great, like, you guys have to go back and look at these. These are great.
I am looking at them right now.
Okay, but we should talk about the turtleneck. Ugh.
What
The turtleneck. No man should wear a turtleneck.
No. The Jack Lord look. Nobody wants to be in Hawaii Five-0. I mean, come on. No.
Oh, yeah. Ireland 82 just said, Frank's turtleneck. Yikes.
Terrible.
Honey Lips Fraser actually said male writers are ruining this adaptation. They just don't get it half the time.
I retweeted that.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. I think that, it happens a lot that we've I don't think it's just them, but I think that they are obviously some of the more dominant voices in the writers' room when they're breaking episodes. So
Joe Train
Vicky.
too wants to know why we're not talking about all the extra hashtags for the show. Why is it like a hashtag every episode? I don't even follow that shit.
You want to know
Hashtag
why
not
we're not
enough.
talking about the hashtags? We're not talking about the hashtags because we're supposed to tweet when the show is airing
mm-hmm.
rather than whenever it actually aired. And so no one's actually watching it at 9 p.m. when the hashtags are at all relevant.
I'm watching it on the train ride into the office on Monday morning. That's what I'm watching it.
Exactly.
Yep.
I watch whatever the fuck I want to watch it.
Explain to me how Stars thinks that they are the only people in the world who have a social media strategy, and their social media strategy is have a different hashtag every week and not tell anybody really what that is, but somehow expect people to figure it out, and then have the show airing at like 18,000 different times, but no spoilers. None of that makes any sense. Nobody else does it that way. Stop trying to make early release happen. It's not going to happen. Turn it off. Stop it, and stop with the.
To me, the early release is like when a movie goes straight to video on demand. Like everyone knows that means it's not good, right?
And
everyone knows that means it was terrible.
Yes.
And it's so interesting because like there's always like don't spoil anything. I saw a couple of those things. I think Matt Roberts said that he tweeted with Beth, right? Like maybe
we talked for a little bit yesterday.
We talked to it, like. Well, it's not up to me to when the episodes air because Beth kind of gave him a shit for like, well, maybe there won't be spoilers if you put it out at midnight on Saturday night or whatever.
Yeah.
But oh God, train of thought, just going all this alcohol. They don't also understand because like it's not a major spoiler that Frank dies, but this episode was. Maybe people don't realize this was going to be the episode, right? So there's these.
You have to take away the fact that you've got the majority of your audience is book readers. Don't think of it like that.
Right. No.
So make your show.
Don't say that 50 minutes into the live tweet, or maybe live tweet it, but then don't put it on Instagram 5 seconds later because just because it's been out since midnight doesn't mean that everybody just watched it. Take the Game of Thrones thing, go for 12 hours. What is the rule on spoilers? You got like 24 hours before you can be like, you're going to be spoiled. We're now going to talk about it publicly. Like,
okay, but my favorite thing about the Matt tweets was that he totally reads everything that's normal writes, and
yeah, he does.
He does,
and then only says nice stuff when publicly, like in public.
Kind of like us, guys.
I say everything I think at all times about this.
Hashtag no filter.
Hashtag no filter. Hey, that's why people listen to us and read us. And that's why they like when we give shit away. I didn't go up to my box, but I've got some great shit in there. So to the winner tonight, did you guys just see the winner I put in the chat box?
A different conversation, Becca.
Can I give it to that person or did she already win?
Did that say? Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So the winner for tonight is at Luna Tuna 15. Thank you so much.
Luna Tuna.
It is a girl who has no name. So please email us at admin@thats-normal.com with your address and your name. Hopefully not 12 people emailing us claiming to be this person. Or DM. Can you DM us? I'm going to follow you right now and then you can direct message us. How about that? We're going to do it that way. Congratulations. Please follow us and we will give you something great. I'm going to find something great in the box of shit I have upstairs.
Before we end, can I just say that Vicky Fraser's tweet of the night is my favorite one that's saying that Ellen McKenzie had beer-flavored nipples. That's why everyone liked her.
That one.
Where's Amy?
Everyone,
her power went out. We lost Amy.
Oh, what? Did she text us?
Yeah.
I didn't even see. Oh, no.
We got a text. Amy's power went out, so we lost her.
Say goodnight to my Hazel. This is my
Hazel.
This is my puppy.
Hi,
Isn't Hazel cute? I woke her up to say hello.
Hello.
That Ellen McKenzie? Oh, no.
Ellen McKenzie, Hazel, Thorne. All right. Well, until next time, guys, we're here every Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, talking about Outlander and drinking and eating and enjoying our evening, showing off our animals. So join us. We'll have podcasts this week. We also have some killer Outlander content. Did you know that Nikki went to the set a year ago and she can finally talk about it? So she released the interview with Katrina this weekend. Last week, she released the interview with Tobias Frank, R.I.P. And so there's no No one's left. There are no other actors to release interviews with, so it must be over.
There's
just kidding.
one more.
There's one
She
more.
had an interview with Sam.
Oh.
She had an interview with Sam, and that will hopefully be here. She said she needs to rewatch it because she thinks it might spoil things in future episodes. So it may not be this week. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good night, guys. Thanks for joining
night,
us. Thanks to
everyone.
everybody who's been watching and tweeting. It's been great tonight.
It was
Ciao,
fun.
Bye.